Call the meeting to order. Could you do a roll call, please?
Mm-hmm. Lenny?
Here.
Lemons?
Here.
Pantera? Here. Rush? Here. Magnuson?
Here.
5 board members present, none absent.
Okay, I think our first topic is we have an introduction tonight.
Yes, I am thrilled to introduce the member of my most recent joining member of my library management team. This is Emily Johnson, who has taken the role of Chief Administrative Officer for the library, in which she will be spending a lot of time on strategy, planning, management, and budget. And Emily, I'd love if you could just tell a little bit about your background and how the first almost month has been for you.
Yeah, 4 weeks. I'm in week 4. Hi, everyone online, and hi, everyone in the room. So I'm Emily Johnson, officially in my 4th week with the library. So far, it's been amazing. Really excited to be part of the team. Just a brief background of my history. My first kind of professional work was in the Phoenix School District in Arizona. So I worked with the college access grant with kids, trying to get them to graduate and go on to do post-secondary planning and college and all that great stuff. It was an amazing job, and I was pretty naive, and that opened my eyes to just a whole different world of what was going on. My husband and I moved here about 12 years ago, and I did a year of AmeriCorps Vista service with Corpus Christi House, which I'm excited to be here with the library, working with a similar, or being able to kind of bring some of that experience in. And then for the last 10, 11 years, I was with Big Brothers Big Sisters. So started out doing an enrollment and matching, and then worked my way through the organization. The last 6 years was as the CEO. So I think this is a great change for me. It was a lot of the pieces of that job that I really, really loved, a chance to still continue to build community and access and equity in our community. So just super excited to be here and help library move forward in the community and do some pretty great things. Looking forward to doing my part.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks. It's been a great couple of weeks, and it's going to be a fun project to expand our services and do a strategic plan and all sorts of great stuff.
Mr. Chair, this is Councilmember Halliburton.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that one of the things that Emily didn't say is that she's a master collaborator. I've had the opportunity to work with Emily a lot over the years, and I was super excited to see you, Emily, in this position and working at the city. One of our city's greatest, I think, roles is being a great convener of different individuals and organizations. And so I'm really excited to see what you're able to do there and to continue to work with you both for my city council and bike project capacity. So congratulations and welcome to the team.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Thank you. We don't have any other formal announcements, I don't believe. So the next topic is the approval of the minutes from last month. Is there any discussion needed? Do we get a motion to approve?
I reviewed the minutes of the meeting on July 13th and feel that they accurately reflect the proceedings and move that we approve them as written.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next topic is the consent agenda that includes the financial reports and I forget what the other one's called, the expenditure summary?
And bills and payroll.
Yeah. The expenditure summary.
The financial reports and the payment of bills and payroll.
Yeah, payment of bills and payroll. Any discussion? Was there?
There was a question.
Was there a
yeah.
question
So Brian had a
that came in?
question that came in, and thank you, board members who send us questions ahead of time. It's really helpful. We make sure that the right staff get a chance to weigh in and review them. Brian had a question looking at the capital project spend and noticing that we are, as you pointed out, 3/4 of the way through the year and 1/4 of the way through the budget. Would we be able to hit that target as planned? And yes, that's the as Sean Wilson mentioned when he's here, those are those big line items that come in with our capital improvement, and you will see that radically shift coming up soon as some of those city expenditures.
Thank you.
Anything else? So is there a motion to approve these, either together or separately?
I would move to approve all matters on the consent agenda.
Okay, all in favor?
I second the motion.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, next up would be a set of reports and from the Friends of the Library. Hi, Jill.
Hi, good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. I just have a couple of brief things. The first is that our board at our last meeting in July approved the MOU, which you guys will be taking up later on the agenda. So thank you again to Jessica and City Legal and everybody else for getting us this far, and hopefully we'll get over that last finish line today. And then the second thing is we're gearing up for our first August sale. It'll be the 18th to the 21st in the main auditorium. We're doing our regular format for the first 3 days where we sell items priced as marked. For the last few sales, we've been having our last day as half price day, but this time we're throwing caution to the wind and bringing back our $9 by the bag sale to see how that goes over. It's generally very popular. It's a good way of moving a lot of inventory. And we were very conscious that we wanted to not raise the prices, that we've had the $9 price point since before COVID. We want to make sure that we're still making books and media available to as many income levels as we can in the community. So that's what's coming up for us in August.
Great, thank you. Appreciate you putting all that together. And next will be the Library Foundation. Brian?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. I'm actually in Las Vegas on vacation, but I'm checking in on my son-in-law's laptop. So I wanted to give you the report from the foundation that in the past 30 days, we were able to vote, and it was wholeheartedly supported and approved that the foundation will be sponsoring the Boise Comic Arts Festival to the tune of $40,000. And as was expressed to Jessica as well, that $40,000 would be offset by any amount that subsequently comes in donations specifically for the Boise Comic Arts Festival. So if we get more contributions, more donations, then the amount that the foundation will be paying will be lessened by that amount. But we're excited to be involved in that. The overall response was positive, and not only are we financially supporting that worthwhile event, but also we want to be physically involved as well, so that we can get us individually out there in the public, in the community, so that we can continue our efforts to raise funds for the library and the programs that are coming up. So
You dropped out a little bit, Brian, but thank you very much for that generous support. That will mean a lot to everybody, and I appreciate it. I think everybody appreciates that very much. Did you have more?
I'm not sure where I dropped off, but I will say that we're meeting just before the event in September to kind of strategize as far as how we can make ourselves visible and seen at those events to further the efforts of fundraising and friend-raising for the foundation and for the library. So thank you.
Great. So please pass on to all the foundation that we really appreciate your support. It means a lot.
All right, I will. Thank you.
So next up would be the report from our library director.
Just a couple things I wanted to highlight for you all this morning. First, I want to thank you for the time that you put into our strategic planning listening sessions. We'll have a discussion about that later with Heidi leading that, but really wanted to thank you all for being there with us and hearing from the community. I also want to thank the foundation for their very generous contribution for our Boise Comic Arts Festival. This is our 10th year. This will be our biggest ever, and we're very excited about them. It will be the public launch will be next week when we make tickets available. And we will also then start announcing some of the content creators that the foundation funding is allowing us to bring in. And mark, if you haven't already, mark your calendars for this 16th, 17th, and 18th. But the real big days, that 17th, that Saturday at Zoo Boise is going to be really fun. And if you haven't been to a Boise Comic Arts Festival before, I highly recommend it. Here at the library, I don't know if you may have noticed, we're having some work done on the outside of the building, depending on when you came in. We're very excited that our signs are being replaced. The iconic library with the exclamation point signs have not been lighting up for quite a while. In fact, there are people that don't even realize they're supposed to light up. But they are being replaced right now. I think the one on the west side today, the east side tomorrow, and then we're going to add a sign on the south side of the building, which I'm very excited about because there are a lot of people that come by on the Greenbelt and don't even realize that this is a library. So we are really excited to be able to have that signage back and have the signs light up at night again. So very pleased with that. We're also right now finishing up summer reading and getting ready for back to school. So we're going to make sure that in your packet for next month, you'll get to see some of the summer reading numbers because we also really have been able to hit some of those ambitious targets that I set for our team. And finally, speaking again of September, just want to highlight for you that September is your annual meeting as a board, and in that, what we will have you do is approve the calendar for your meetings in fiscal year 23. So we'll come to you with that proposed timeline, meeting dates. You'll need to approve that. You'll need to select officers, so your president and vice president, and then finally we will have a quick review of the bylaws, and we'll make sure that we do that well. But just wanted to preview that coming up. And with that, any questions?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I believe next up is some policy review.
Hi, I am Kate Radford. I'm the Information Services Supervisor, and I'm stepping in for Sarah today.
And let me, since we didn't get a chance to connect on this, we want to thank, we had some trustees that sent us some questions ahead of time, and it was super helpful because we wanted to adjust a little bit how we do this this month, and based on the great questions that you got that came to us, that I think are going to take more discussion. What we really want to use this time is to understand anybody's questions or concerns, particularly about these policies. We are going to recommend not voting on them this month and then coming back with those questions answered. I think the substantive questions that we got were very in-depth, and I think are going to require some thought and research on our side. So Kate, I didn't get it. You were in a meeting and we didn't get a chance to connect at the time. But I think that approach will really make sure that when we are asking you to vote on the policies, we have all your questions really well addressed.
So with that, do we want to step through?
If you could step through and then,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
with that idea of, if you could give us the background, some of the intent behind the, and then particularly Brian had couple questions on how does this work in practice that are like, that you're
Perfect.
prepared to answer as well.
Okay, so this is the last section of the policy for the fiscal year 2022. And it's section 8.0 displays and exhibits. It says changes were last made in 2011. We made several suggestions, which you saw, and then we'll have that discussion piece. The policy pieces are the ones that the board votes on, and then the regulation are the ones that the staff just presents. So policy 8.01 displays. So it was a little bit confusing because it mixed up display and bulletin board information. Language was changed to focus on topic, update processes to reflect that we've expanded to 5 locations since it was originally introduced, which includes the branches that keep the paperwork on file in their location, and just generally simplify and clarify the process and the policy for staff and the public. So Brian, you had a couple of questions about the wording and then a practice piece on the terms and condition, which is bullet point 5 on the displays policy. And really for process on that piece, we do the process in that order. That application form is the last thing we do as staff. So it's written in the order kind of how we present it to the public and then what we do process wise.
Okay.
Does that help clarify that, or can I add any additional?
The first step is the director may determine the suitability of a given item. And the item is assessed before an application form is processed.
Are you on,
Number 5.
yes. For display application form, that piece?
I just assumed that it starts with an application form
And really,
and then goes to an
yeah.
assessment.
Generally in process, what happens is somebody comes in and we sort of introduce like, oh, here's our policy on this. These are the kinds of things we accept. This is what the limitations are. So we talk about that 30-day piece. We go through, so we sort of go through all of these steps with them. And then if they still want to do a display, we'll take that application form at that point. Was there additional discussion on this piece?
I just had a question. Does the legal department get involved with reviewing these changes?
We do, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I sent my question tardy, so I apologize for that. It helps a little bit understanding displays versus bulletin boards. But my legal question to me is some of this running afoul of the First Amendment, because my understanding was there were limited public forums, so I don't have a clear understanding of whether we can. It looks like this is saying only the library is going to post on the bulletin boards. Is that the change?
So only the library, like physically, and that's not different than it was.
Okay, because the guidelines then look like we're doing a little bit of picking and choosing what gets posted. And I didn't want to leave room for content-based determinations, and it looks like this might. So I guess I'd like some comfort from legal that that's okay in the context of displays and in the context of bulletin boards, which I think are probably different under First Amendment. So those would be my kind of concerns and questions. There is like a recent case like specifically involving bulletin boards in, I think it's a county facility, so it's a little bit different. So, and that is like a brand new one that just came out this last session. So I didn't know how that might fit into, because the Supreme Court's really rapidly changing First Amendment jurisprudence. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure we reviewed and had some comfort on those questions.
So I did review the changes. I felt that we weren't sort of, the intent of the changes were to sort of clarify what was happening. And I thought that they're adding or subtracting substance to them necessarily. I agree that there is sort of rapidly changing First Amendment analysis and how that will be interpreted and sort of work its way through the courts and the general understanding is sort of yet to be determined. So I think it's safe to say that our approach this year was that since these were intended to sort of clarify and clean up and there's not a lot of that certainty regarding how it really shakes out in practice. Some of these First Amendment principles that have been announced, that's sort of why we went forward with it this year and proposed it as such. I think what we're hearing from the board is that you'd like an additional analysis and looking into it, and I'm happy to provide that. And so we'll take a deeper dive into that.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that.
Are there any other city facilities that have that allow the public to do either displays or have bulletin boards? And then would they have, a similar policy? That was a question. Does the city have a policy like this for other locations?
That's a good question. I'll put that in the hopper as well. Nothing jumps out of my mind, but that doesn't mean that there's not one out there.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you put anything up on a little board at City Hall?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I had one other comment I made in my submission. There's some redundancy between the introductory paragraph and terms and conditions. The second sentence seems pretty redundant with, in the intro, seems pretty redundant with terms and condition number 1. And the last sentence seems pretty redundant with term and condition number 3. I thought you might be able to rework these a little bit to make it more succinct, but I don't know if that's was your intent to structure it that way.
That was one of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier, and I think will be part of the ongoing conversation, because I'm not sure how much of that terminology is legally needed, and they're phrased a little bit differently, those points are, so I think they can probably be potentially reworked, assuming they've got the right wording in the right spot.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. Okay, so we can move on to the discussion for display cases regulation 8.01A. And I wanted to thank you for the recommendation on the wording change for that.
Sorry, do you mind if we can get that on the public record?
Yeah.
Of sort of what the concern was or the question, and then what the.
Do you want me to,
Or.
Go ahead.
do you want to speak to it?
We have your email, so we can. Kate, could you do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you had suggested adding the words "and approval" after "upon completion," so it would say "upon completion and approval of the display form" there.
It sounds like it's automatic if they complete the form and submit it.
Is there any other discussion on that piece? So then bulletin boards policy 8.02 is next. You had recommended just changing the wording a little bit, so it would read, actually, do you want me to read the changes, what the change would look like on that?
I thought those through better than my impromptu comments.
Yeah, absolutely. So it would read then, as a service to our users, the library may accept instead of make informational materials regarding educational and cultural events, local support agencies, and public announcements of general interest to the community for display instead of available there in public display areas from time to time. The library provides this service within the space limitations of each library location and within the discretion of the director or their designee. So then I wondered if you wanted to put that to the board for discussion with those changes reflected.
I appreciate those changes. That makes it more clear. My question earlier, whether you were making the space available or whether you're posting only library things on there.
Yeah, I think those are good suggestions.
And then I'd ask for the same analysis. It's
Right, exactly.
Who knew this was a hot topic?
Policy always is.
It may not be, I just.
No, it's good, it's good.
Sounds like we can move on to bulletin board guidelines, regulation 8.02A. Brian, you had noted that we were missing T in the word items. Thank you for that. In number 3. And I think we've maybe got that corrected in the version that I have. So thank you for that edit. And then you had asked a question about number 7, which is materials for public review and comment, and if that happens often. When we were discussing this regulation, it happens often enough that it's definitely something that it makes sense to staff to have a place for that. It isn't really a bulletin board piece, but because of the way these policies and regulations are structured currently, there wasn't a different or better spot for it. And a lot of the edits that were made to this one especially were to remove parts that were already covered under other policies, and to sort of clarify and simplify that.
That's a clear explanation, thank you. And in
Yeah.
general, I thought these proposed changes added a lot of clarity, made it more succinct in the process.
Discussion pieces on that one. And then Sarah noted that there were no changes to exhibit 8.01B, which is loaned object display agreement. That's my piece.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, okay, thank you. So, these will come back next month? Or whenever you're ready? Okay. It's good discussion. Anything else on policy? Okay, Heidi, you want to talk about strategic plan?
Yes, thank you. All right, as always, thank you so much for letting me join you to discuss, give you an update briefing on our strategic plan efforts to date. So we've got our agenda for today, which is going to be a project overview, a high-level phase 1 schedule review, community listening sessions, discussion, and then some next steps. So for our project overview, this is just kind of a refresher, a little bit slimmed down for this session that we, of course, are turning to community members to understand their needs and desires for library programs and services. Our process goal that we're really focusing on right now is that every member of the Boise community and every Boise Public Library staff member will know how to engage in the discussion and how to provide input. And then our outcome goal overall for the project is a library that is outwardly focused on making a positive impact for the community we serve. So I always want to check in that anchor where we're at. And then for our project overview further, we've got phase 1 and phase 2. We're very solidly in phase 1. We're really gathering information. That is what phase 1 is, to give us as much information as possible for us to really move into phase 2 later on, where we will be actually drafting the new strategic plan. So in our phase 1, we are looking to the community for their desires for the library, the future of Boise, and we're also looking at where the library is at now, so we can determine what that gap is between where the community wants us to be, where we're currently at, will help us again draft that plan in phase 2. And then in terms of our phase 1 schedule, you can see where we are. We're here in August. We have completed the staff survey and staff listening sessions. We were able to present, since we last met with you, we were able to present at an all-staff meeting on the preliminary high-level overview of the staff findings, and we're currently finalizing the deeper final analysis of the staff engagement. The staff also had a survey and listening sessions as well. And then the partner community member interviews, I'll talk about that a little bit more in our next step slide later on. The community survey and listening sessions is where we'll spend most of our time today, the listening sessions in particular. But I wanted to share an update on the community survey that we're currently, as of this morning, over 1,400 people have responded to the survey, including 15 Spanish versions, 13 in the Spanish language version of the survey, which we're very excited about. We're continuing to find additional ways to get the survey out to people, including sending out 50,000 postcards. There was a joint effort with the Office of Community Engagement where they sent out a postcard that had Energize Our Neighborhood and the library community survey on it. So we're really looking for, we've been working on multiple ways to get the word out about the survey. So we're very excited about the amount of response that we've had so far and look forward to getting some more. And then the community listening sessions, again, are what we'll talk about more. And while we're finishing those up, working on all of that work, then we're doing this additional work that you see at the bottom, which is the data collection, the community context summary, and the peer library benchmarking. All of that leads to that phase 1 summary that we'll be talking more with you about in September. So as part of the way that we're getting the word out about the project, about the survey, about the listening sessions, is we've had some of these different tabling activities out and about. So we were at some farmers markets, a couple of different concerts, first Thursday at the City Hall Plaza, Bound Block Party. We talked to over 350 people through those tabling activities and are planning a couple of more. And then I'm sorry, this isn't very clear, but this was a photo of just one of the activities that we had at one of the sessions. And it asked, in a dream world, your library would enrich your life by having, and some of the comments that are on there that I realize now you can't see are 3D printers, tools for borrowing, more teen spaces, more adult audiobooks in Spanish, and more ways to connect with community members. So this was just at one of the events, and I only gave 5 of the comments that are on there. There are many more than that. We're getting these kinds of activities at every event that you're seeing there, as well as at every couple of weeks at all of our library locations. So that's just another way that we're getting a lot of great community feedback and data that's going to be going towards that phase 1 summary. So you might notice there are posters on the second floor landing and in front of the youth services area where people are putting up stickers and writing comments. So we have that at all of our locations and are very excited about the data we're getting through that. So the other way really is the community listening sessions, which we're so excited to talk to you about today. The listening sessions focused on 3 areas: current library experience, envisioning the future, and community reflection. These mirrored the same topics that we talked about in the staff listening session. So we'll be able to compare and contrast and bring all of those comments together. So each of those had some different questions that you would have seen. Really, with the community listening sessions, more than anything today, I wanted to thank you for being at the community listening sessions. It meant so much to staff to have each of you there at a listening session or 2. Thank you to those of you who showed up at a couple of listening sessions. Meant a lot to staff, and I know it meant a lot to the community members who attended. I heard at least a couple of community members specifically thank the board members for attending. So thank you for being there. So you can see here the dates, the times of day, the locations, and the board member present at each of our listening sessions, and the number of attendees. So a couple of things I want to mention about the listening sessions. They are supplements to the wider survey data. They are more about qualitative rather than quantitative data. They can get into some nuances that we can't get to in the survey. So they're really impactful in that sense that we can get into some deeper conversations with community members in the listening sessions than we can with the surveys. We found that the smaller number of attendees meant that every attendee was able to speak to every single question that we asked, which we appreciated. So I want to point that out. And we did receive a lot of robust feedback in every session, even the session that had 2 attendees. It was a great conversation, and it was really neat to see those 2 community members making connections with each other and making clear connections with the staff. And you could just see how much that location meant to them and how libraries in general meant a lot in their personal lives. So Again, robust discussions in each of them. I was able to attend 5 of the 7 listening sessions. And it was really neat to see some of the themes that came up in every session, and then the fact that there were unique discussions in each session. So that's what I had to share about the community listening sessions. But in this next slide, we really wanted to hear from you all if you'd be willing to talk about. So we've got 3 questions for you here. What did you take away from the community listening session or sessions you attended? What did you hear that you would like to ensure other board members hear? And what did you hear that you would like library staff members to hear? So if you'd be interested in discussing, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback.
Mr. Chair, yes, I'd love to. I'll take the 3rd question first, because I think there was really, really positive comments about the staff at the library, the services the library currently provides, and the general sentiment was, you're doing a great job at what you do now. That's what I heard at the ones I was at. So I think that's important to pass on to staff that's not here too, if you haven't. Because that was really great. I think it started from a positive place, and the question was very much, what more can you do? And that's so great to be starting there instead of starting at, we have all these problems. So that's great. I had a question. I was at 2, and both of them ended up being very, very focused on co-locating services for patrons. A lot about school districts, and an example was the Meridian Library works a lot with the West Ada School District. So I was curious if we could, and I know Natasha works with the school district, follow up specifically with the school district and see if there's some needs there that could work, or if that's already on the agenda, because I know we're meeting with certain community groups. And then the other one that I thought came up fairly consistently was having co-located service for people experiencing housing insecurity. And I would definitely agree with that. Just if you come to the downtown library ever, you see people kind of around and probably needing services. So that would be, I thought that was a cool idea, and curious if we connected with any agencies specifically to explore that, or maybe that's in phase 2. So that I think covers both of that, first and second, but I thought they were great, and we did have a small group, but they were very vocal and had great input. So.
I'd echo the same thing. I was really impressed with the positivity, and my session had, dear, I forgot her name. She was so cute. She loved the birds. She just very positive feedback about, and that particular person uses, I feel like, almost every facet of the library, which I thought was a really neat person to be there, because she was just an advocate and really positive. And so I would love that passed on to the staff, because it's a friendly place. It's a welcoming place. People are seeming to understand that you go here to get information, and that it's good information, trustworthy and such. And then I think one of the things that came up in ours was, again, kind of an outreach for some of those populations that we may be missing, specifically like our refugee population here in Boise. I work with that a lot at my school. We have the highest population at Boise High of refugees in the school district. So in fact, on my way out the door to here, our ELL teacher stopped me and was like, could we do like a field trip to the library? And could they highlight? So she's like, we can get busing. We can do busing and get some translators because we have multiple languages spoken. She's like, do you do a field? I'm like, walk there. We don't even need a bus. We just wait. I'll want to walk with them. That's fine. And she's like, I just think it would be really neat to highlight. They just don't know. That's all it is. I mean, these are, and I know that there's the Agency for New Americans as well, but there is a strong influx of refugees coming in. And so if we can just support that, I'm pretty passionate about that population of kiddos. In our school district, I think oftentimes would love to collaborate with the library. The last few years have been overwhelming. So we just have to get, and we've been talking right now about how lovely it is that we're kind of normal this year. So maybe we can really work on those relationships now. I would absolutely love that. Kids they just don't know. That's all it is. They don't know. So I would love to have positive. That was great.
I would echo a lot of those sentiments that came out of the listening session that I attended, the desire for more outreach and this returning to sharing the programs, the services, the things that the library is able to do in different pockets the community. Folks talked a lot about missing the bookmobiles. That came up a lot. And I know that's something near and dear to my heart because we do a lot of mobile services at St. Al's, and we're looking to continue to partner and find opportunities to do one-stop shopping, right, and the co-locating of services. So having the bookmobile, whatever that might look like, or some sort of mobile services, returning to doing things in the schools. The other thing that was really interesting that folks mentioned was a little bit of some of the dead zones where it was definitely considered a strength and an asset that there are neighborhood-based libraries, but there are still a couple of spots across town, particularly in West Boise, where there are pretty sizable pockets of population that aren't within a 2 to 4 mile radius of a library. And I know for myself too, we were talking about that overlap between, I live in Boise, but my kids go to West Ada School District, so they get all the Meridian information, not the Boise information. So continuing to kind of work on some of those pockets and areas of town where maybe the outreach hasn't been as strong, or maybe there's a little bit of kind of overlapping between the Boise and Meridian, and that opportunity to collaborate and intersect there a little bit better. But overall, we'll also echo massive applause. The biggest strength that folks said was the library staff, the incredible amount of extra work that they do, which I will validate for myself. I understand that librarians and the folks that work in the library are asked to do a lot of things that are outside the realm of just helping with books and information. So deep appreciation for that, as well as for the respect and dignity that the library staff shows to the diverse array of folks that come through the doors of the libraries. So deep appreciation for all of that as well.
Regarding question number 2, I felt that the presence of board members at these sessions was really important. We had, in the session I attended, someone show up a little bit late. And since we're a relatively small group, we redid the introductions so that she could know who she was giving input to. And I said, I'm a volunteer serving on the board of trustees. And she said, oh, it seemed to really catch her attention, and she dug a little deeper for feedback to give us in the process. So I know it made an impact that board members were there. And I know personally it made an impact for me to hear directly from the public the feedback that they were providing. One woman was recently moved to Boise from Denver, and she was 78, I think she said. And she wanted to use the library as sort of a onboarding to the community, and was really lobbying for more things like book clubs, reading clubs for people her age, and just feedback I wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
So I was able to go to 2 of them. It sounds like you're getting really good numbers on the surveys. I don't know, what the norms would be, but that sounds good. And I'm sure all the postcards will generate another wave. But that sounds like a really good effort. I guess I don't know what the norm is for sessions like this, where you're trying to get people to come in. Obviously, I would have liked to see a lot more people by several orders of magnitude, but that may not be in the cards. I think the people that showed up, expressed a lot of what you said, where they love the library, but they wanted the library to reach more people. And you were talking about how the kids just don't know. I think the community's like that too, where they just don't know. And I suspect that one of our jobs is to try to get to where people know. You were also, I was a little concerned, maybe, this is maybe a minor thing, but you were talking about how important the in-person input is, because you can go places you didn't go before. I agree with that, but because the numbers are so small, I would what's the right word? I would maybe temper that a little bit, because you know, there's a lot of people that didn't show up. And so I think it's really good in that area if they've got input, but I wouldn't leap to say that that's the only topic really, because the numbers were so small. But the library staff did a great job in running the meetings. And again, I think the overwhelming input was, God, the library is this great asset to the community. How do we get more people? You know, and there were lots of groups they wanted to target and maybe ways to target them, but I would go back to kind of the community doesn't have the level of awareness that maybe we want long term. It was fun to participate, hear the input.
I think we also learned that there's potential competition, what's going on in television and other things. I can't remember what it was, but we had competition on our night.
That's right.
But it's easy to reduce attendance based on what's going on around both sessions.
Yeah, that was a big news night, I remember.
Yeah.
But one of the attendees commented like, I'm here instead of watching the news, but I really like to be watching the news.
So you're getting to the end kind of the community listening phase. And I think the outreach and the events you're talking about is really good. So those events are still on the calendar to go out and try to advertise the survey, I think, and what the library's doing. There aren't any other like specific listening events then, right?
Yeah, we don't have any more scheduled. And I would agree that we didn't know what to expect for attendance at all. We really didn't. And we had hoped for more attendance. I think a lot of it had to do with it being the summer. There are just so many people on vacation, getting ready to go on vacation, recovering back from vacation. I think that affected it. Saturday, we had the most people sign up. It wasn't required that you sign up for the in-person sessions, but for the other sessions, we saw about double the number of people sign up, attend. And so we thought we were going to have a much bigger turnout at the session on last Saturday at the main library. But it ended up being such a beautiful day, much nicer weather, temperature that a lot of people, I think, just were like, I think I'd rather not be inside today if possible. So I think that's some of what we were up against is the timing of it. And we are continuing to kind of debrief about it. I know that the zoning code surveys have had some different listening sessions that they've been doing and have seen different numbers of attendance, but they've also been really working on this project for a solid year and a half. And so I think have built where some people are coming back to each session to see what they've changed and to give additional feedback. So I think that will be really interesting to look into when we are able to bring back some types of community input in person for phase 2, if we see different types of attendance, because we'll have a different kind of ask at that point. I think that'll be, really interesting to watch. Yeah, I really appreciate all the feedback from all the sessions that you attended. I agree, Phil, that there are definitely some of the themes that we heard in the community listening sessions that support the themes we're seeing on the survey. And then we'll want to be careful if there's something that was completely unique to a listening session, that's characterized in our final write-up of all of the different things. But and I really appreciate Natasha, and we'll talk about it a little bit in the next slide too. One of the other pieces that we'll be doing the rest of the month of August is working. Actually, it's not this slide. I apologize. So I'll talk about it now, and then we'll talk about it in the final slide. But your comment, Natasha, that the Boise School District the last few years have just been trying to maintain and hold steady, and that's something we really saw in the staff engagement in the survey and the listening sessions, is that staff talked about, well, there are a lot of partnerships that we used to have, or a lot of partners or community organizations that we used to work with that we lost touch with. And some of it was staffing turnover on our end. A lot of it was staffing turnover on the organization's end. A lot of it was like, hey, we see you out there. Good job. We know you're busy doing what you're doing. And then to your point, Nikki, of a couple of the things that came up. One of the other challenges in the listening sessions was for staff not to say, oh, we do that. And Billy was saying that not everyone knows the things that we do. So a lot of the suggestions that came up, it was so hard for us to say, we do that. We have been working with Catch and Jesse Tree, having them in our locations, a couple of our locations at least once a month, which looks slightly different than locating, but is a version of that. And so, yeah, it was really interesting to hear what are the things that we're going to need to dig deeper on, dive deeper on, and what are the things that we need to try brand new that we haven't before. So that's a piece of it, is we're starting to get back into working with some of those partners and really excited to form some new partnerships. So I wanted to touch briefly on the Board of Trustees involvement overall, that we have completed the one-on-ones. Thank you so much for each taking the time to meet with the Burke team to have your board one-on-one. And then we'll continue to provide the board briefings each month throughout this project. Our steering committee will happen next Tuesday. And I'll talk about a little bit about that in the next slide. And then the listening sessions are completed for now. And in September, we'll have some more information for you about the phase 1 and phase 2 summary and digging into that. So then in our final slide is just those next steps again. So the community survey opened Thursday, July 14th, and will close late August. The community partner interviews in August will interview additional organizations in the community on a variety of topics, including small business, education, and housing. So we are hoping to talk with different organizations and get their perspective on the top issues facing Boise and some of the potential for partnerships and supporting community members. And then again, the steering committee is also going to be talking about the demographics that we're seeing in the surveys so far and talking about any gaps that we're seeing and who we're reaching. And then this September board update, we'll talk about all the things that we've completed then in August and start talking about next steps for the future of these two. Any other questions at this time about the project?
Good update. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
progress.
Yeah. Okay, our next topic is the memorandum of understanding with the Friends of the Library. We talked about this a little bit last month. And I guess our intent would be for the library trustees to vote on this and approve it. Is there any discussion needed of this?
Just to remind everybody, we read this in last month's board meeting materials. And the verbiage seems to be unchanged from the last version I saw. And it was amended from the prior version to include Friends operations and beneficiaries of the monies raised. And I feel it's a very solid memorandum of understanding. I make a motion to approve it as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Now, do we need to do a roll call or just a voice vote?
Just voice vote.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the memorandum of understanding, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So the memorandum is approved.
Drinks on me, Jill. Sorry. Not yet.
Okay, I don't think we have any new business. Who is next for approving vouchers?
Tara.
Tara? Any conflicts with that?
No.
So the next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, September 14th. Real quick. Did anybody have any conflicts with that? Any conflicts? Okay, we'll meet again on the 14th. Thanks, everybody. It's good to see you. Meeting is now adjourned, I believe. Oh, we need a motion. Could we get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second? And all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. All right, thank you.
Good job.